Hey everybody, welcome to episode 142 of Making It. I'm Bob Clagett, here with David Picciuto.
Hey, it's me again. I get to go first.
Yeah, you get to go first again. And we also have Jimmy Diresta.
Hey guys, how are you?
What's up, morning voice?
A little deep, I'm sorry. Yeah, I went to sleep about 20 minutes ago.
What were you doing until about 20 minutes ago?
Trying to finish my vlog. I got it to a point where I got, like tonight, I could just like pull the trigger and finish it up. So I was working on the vlog and dilly-dallying, and all of a sudden I realized it's the 30th and I didn't pay one bill. So I wrote out about 15 checks last night. And so I did that at like 3 in the morning. Went to the post office, dropped them off at 4 in the morning. Do you know the post office is closed at 4 in the morning? Did everybody know that?
Most things are closed at 4 in the morning.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that till last night. No, there's an outside mailbox.
Most people sleep at 4 in the morning, not take their mail to the post office.
Yeah. Or I just wanted to have a sexy voice for 9 a.m.
What have you been working on?
Oh, well, as you guys can see in social media, Kyle's here building this incredible Noah's Ark in the backyard.
Yeah.
And he kept telling me, he goes, dude, man, it's going to look like a church. It's going to look like a church, dude. It's going to look like a church. And I was like, whatever. I like it. Okay. So the design of the building is inspired. Taylor did a lot of the research, and we were inspired by a lot of these sort of Norwegian, Scandinavian looking buildings that have a bigger point. Some of them were even more pointy. We have an 812 pitch, which is a little bit severe for around these parts, but I think my house has a close to an 812 pitch. We don't know exactly what it is, so we wanted it to match my house. And we also wanted a second floor, so inside's going to have a big cathedral. And so by the time Kyle leaves, probably this week, he's been here for 1 week this morning. So in the last 7 days, he's put up what you guys can see on Instagram. He's already started sheeting it. He's going to have the roof done. And he's going to have all the window holes framed out, but the sheeting will be over the windows because we're not going to do the windows until I make a deal. I got to figure out how to get the windows. And so the building will be enclosed with a roof on it, proper roof, that weather-resistant roof. And it's pretty incredible to watch just Kyle and Greg do the whole thing by themselves.
It's insane. I mean, I haven't been watching like his story. I know it's there, but it's insane seeing the progress pictures and how big that thing is and only 2 people doing it.
It's incredible. These guys are so...
Blows my mind.
They're so used to doing this, and they're so well skilled and so well experienced that each step, you could stand there and off. The only thing you could just say is, I'll pick up all the scraps that are in your path, because that's the only thing you can do for them. It's just like make sure they don't trip over a chunk of wood. But as far as help, they have a method for moving plywood. They have a method for carrying the trusses, and it's just 2 men. It's pretty incredible. A guy named Mark showed up this week to help. It's funny because me and Kyle both have our Instagram friends, and we had a meetup last night because a lot of people were asking to hang out with him. And he goes, so many people want to meet me since I'm here in New York. And I said, well, let's just do a meetup at the shop. It's the first time I'd ever done one. I just put the address out there, and I only announced on Instagram. So a lot of people are probably going to be mad that they missed it, but a lot of people showed up, and about maybe 40 people showed up. And it was really funny because as people come in, I'm like, are you here for me or are you here for Kyle? You got to take the left or right, because some people didn't even know who I was, and some people didn't know who he was. And so it was funny. We had a really nice time. A lot of great people showed up and a lot of laughs. And we did it from 2 to 6, and the last person left it at almost midnight. So
whoa,
we just ended up hanging out and talking all day long, and everybody brought food. So we all got bloated on junk food. We had a really good time. And it was just something, it was just really unscheduled. Hey, let's do a meetup. We kind of thought of it on Friday night, and we did it Sunday. And it went really well. So I'll probably do more of those as time goes on. Do
you find yourself doing what I do, is you just go out there and you just stand and stare at it for 5 minutes?
Yeah. Well, the routine has been, it's really windy today, and then I'm talking to you guys. So I get up, I take a shower, make a coffee, and then I just take the drone off. I just take the drone up in the air, and I just watch from the back porch, which is about 400 feet away from the building on the other side of a tree line. So every morning...
How lazy are you?
No, I go and get my morning footage while those guys are climbing all over the building.
Oh, I thought you were just like, I don't have to leave the porch. I can just look at it from here.
Well, that too, but no. It's like because I'm trying to get my morning footage with the sun kind of at the horizon. So I fly the drone about 7:38 each morning. And Kyle, he points at it and says, "Hey man, good morning." Kind of says good morning to me through the drone. So that's what I've been doing. But right now, if I fly the drone, it'll just disappear. It is so windy out today, and I don't even know how those guys are handling sheets of plywood right now. Last night we had torrential rain. I know there's been a lot of damage on Long Island. I heard from flooding. Unless I've never seen like streets flooding up here because my house is on a big hill and there's hills everywhere. There's some flood waters at some of like the valleys where the road kind of valleys down and goes back up, which is something I've never seen up here. So we had torrential rains. It rained solid hard from noon until at least 1 o'clock in the morning last night. So for almost 12, 13 solid hours, it just rained as hard as you could imagine it raining. It did not let up. And so that was why we had to meet up yesterday because it was called for rain. So those guys knew they weren't going to be working. So they're like, let's just do it. But it was a great time. And I just can't believe that this building is actually taking place. I talked about it for so long that even I was sick of hearing myself talk about it. And now that it's begun, I have to keep working harder to pay for the floor, pay for the windows, pay for the siding, and pay for the big doors and heating system. So it's every phase is still yet to be. I know what I want, but it hasn't been scheduled. I'm going to pay for it as we go. So a lot of work.
That's
a lot
awesome.
of work. A lot of work to pay for it, and a lot of work to do it.
I'm glad to see it finally happening for you, though. I think it's really awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really is a dream come true. I mean, when Kyle first put I'm such a sucker. You guys have been with me like 5 times when I cried in front of an audience because I'm happy. And when he put the foundation down there a couple months ago, I walked in the back and I just started tearing up. And he gave me a big hug. He's like, "Man, I like seeing people's dreams come true, man. It's so nice." He's such a sweet guy.
I saw your Instagram photo, and I was just like, I just smiled because I just felt so good for you, and it was just like, this is amazing.
Thank you, guys. Well, I mean, it's this community. Honestly, I know I'm going to get sappy. I'll probably cry right now, but it really is this community. It wouldn't have happened without it. You know, I did that fundraiser a couple of years ago. I probably made about 25, 30 grand with that little doll thing. And, you know, I kind of felt real responsible that I had to do, you know, that got me committed because now I sold them for that reason. And so I just kept having a hard time getting started because I was just afraid. I didn't want to have to borrow money. And so as of now, I still haven't borrowed any money, but I will probably eventually to finish it. So, you know, it's this community. It's my Patreon and my YouTube, and you know the support from everybody, and all the advertisers. I want to thank all the advertisers. I'm kidding, because we're going to talk about that later.
I was like, didn't expect that.
You can just get other people to pay for it, right?
Yeah.
I should just get. You know what? Wait a minute. What did you say, Dave?
Oh, we'll talk about it here in a little bit. We can just get other people to pay for the things that we want.
That's a great. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Why have we never thought of that before?
We're kidding around. That's a subject we're going to talk about later. But no, it really is amazing. And I've been chasing my tail for so long, just trying to get ahead of the curve. And, you know, with this community and this YouTube and everything else, I've been able to get a little bit out of the curve. And so that's how I have this building now. So
is it going to be sectioned off? Are you going to have your space in there? Is Taylor going to have her space or?
Well, the downstairs, I envision this. If I can keep the space down the road, it's cheap enough. I might keep it for 1 or 2 more years. But I see the downstairs being metal work on one side, woodwork on the other, and the middle opened all the way from one door to the other. So there'll be like a center hallway right down the whole thing. And then upstairs will be a clean living. It'll be maybe digital fabrication, maybe sewing machines, leather work.
That makes sense.
And so like if we do steel work downstairs, then Taylor's chairs will go upstairs to get leather work on them. And it's incredible that the upstairs, we made the walls at 20 feet high. So the peak is 34 feet. So the walls themselves, the long straight walls on either side of the building, are exactly 20 feet high. So if I go up 14 feet, that gives me about, let's say if I go up 14 feet, the floor will be about 18 inches thick. It gives me about 5 feet at the little wall on upstairs. So I'll have 5 feet, but the ceiling goes up like a cathedral. So the upstairs space is going to be really special with the cathedral ceiling. Those scissor trusses are all designed for the snow load in my zone. So if there's a big snow, it's going to be able to handle it. And we're having a standing seam roof. It's going to be all black. Everybody's asking. It's going to be all black window frames. It's going to have a very nautical New England look once it's all done. So we're real excited. It's going to be clapboard on the outside, long clapboard like on my house. We didn't want to put up like a Morton metal building, which would have been a fraction of the price, but it just would have felt cold and impersonal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, and the fact that Kyle's building it is a good story for me. I really enjoy his company, and I've learned so much from him. And I used to look at I still do look at his Instagram posts and just get so inspired. And yeah, you look at he got the kind of Instagram, you look at it and you just dream. You're like, wow, one day I'll have a airplane hangar building. Because he builds these giant buildings. Like this building is a 40-foot free span. He goes, I built 100-foot wide free spans. It like boggles my mind. How are you going to have a building 100 feet wide with no posts in it? I don't even understand how that's possible, but he says it is. Just because of the trusses that are engineered these days.
Crazy.
So, yeah,
awesome.
It's been a crazy week. It's definitely like a monumental week in my life. So,
yeah,
thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of it. I'm gonna cry now.
I am moving into my new shop this week.
Nice.
Yeah, and so
I saw that post where you said I should put carpet in mine. That was hilarious. It's not a bad idea on the second floor, maybe.
Yeah. The only thing left to do in my shop right now is the trim work, and the contractor didn't get that on the schedule. And so they're trying to fit it in. They're crazy busy, so they're waiting for a rain day where they get canceled somewhere else and they can come in and do the trim. But in the meantime, today I'm going to start moving some tools in. I've got my sliding wall all working. So behind me, my backdrop is going to be these hollow core doors that there's 6 of them, and they slide open to reveal a closet, and that is working pretty well. My ceilings are not 20 feet high. They're just over 8 feet. I ordered 10 sheets of Baltic birch plywood this past couple days so I could start building shop furniture, and I can stand them upright, and they fit, which is good. I wanted higher ceilings, but the cost would have almost doubled, because if they would have removed the joists that were there to run them higher, it would the structure of the building wouldn't be as strong, and they would have to do all these things. And I was like, I can live with 8-foot ceilings, because I had 6-foot ceilings at the old shop. So
wow.
Yeah, so I am super excited. I got a couple little small projects going on this week. I'm finishing up. Behind me is that wall is going to be a magnetic dry erase board, and it's going to be framed. And then I'm doing a little men's bathroom organizer. So when you open up what is considered my drawer in the bathroom, I'm building this little organizer that fits in there, and then you can also take it out and you use it as a travel case.
Oh, nice.
And that's what's
cool.
going on over here. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I have been cold. It's actually cold here. It's just
You're in Kentucky
weird.
now.
I'm not used to that. I'm in Kentucky, and the temperature just like, I don't know if it's had a cold snap for you guys, but it went from like 70s last week to 20s. It just dropped off, and so we're all adjusting to that and trying to figure out how many new jackets and gloves we need to go buy and all that stuff. So, but it's been cool. Had some good friends here this past weekend, so we got to show them around town and see some of the colors and stuff, all the fall colors that they don't get to see in Savannah and we haven't seen stuff. So it's been fun, but it's definitely an adjustment to make. Cool thing is that my shop is in the basement, so the temperature doesn't change much down there, which is really nice. But what have I been working on? I made a clock. You guys can see this, well, in a second, but
Ooh,
Oh, wow.
that's my
That's
style.
something you would have bought.
yeah, it's a mid-century modern sunburst? Sunburst?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Now my camera's all messed up.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and so somebody gave a clock like that to my wife as a gift a few years ago. And it's cheap, and the time that it was built, it was like, it looks like it's brass and walnut, but it's actually all just, it's brass and aluminum that's wrapped in walnut paper, So it's pretty old and kind of busted and loose. The clock part doesn't really work. So I recreated it from scratch. And so it was a really cool chance to have like something to try to match. Like I don't typically try to recreate things. And so if something looks different than I originally thought, you can't necessarily see that it's changed, but when you have this thing that you're really trying to replicate, you can see the differences really clearly. And so that was kind of an interesting challenge. I got to use the metal brake that I made a while back to fold the brass. If anybody's listening and they see the video, they'll see what I'm saying. But each one of the star points is either brass or walnut. So I got to fold the brass to make these star points, and then I had to use interesting cutting to get the walnut into these compound angle cuts to make like spikes out of the walnut. And then I get to use the lathe to turn the face and put a little rabbit on the backside of it. And I made the hands for the clock from brass stock. It was fun. It was like a bunch of new stuff I hadn't done. So, and I think it came out looking good.
Awesome.
And then we're finishing up, just finished up another project that I can't really talk about on the show yet, but in a few weeks I'll be able to talk about it. It's a sponsored thing, but it's a really cool project.
Ooh.
And I can't wait to show it off. I think it's really cool because I've been building it. I'm not sure if anybody else is going to think it's cool, but I think it's really cool. So, but it's kind of cool to be working on a couple of things and starting to get ahead. And I've got a couple other small projects I'm going to try to do in the next week or so that I can get some space, in between things. I'm starting to feel like I'm getting out of the rut that I was in for a little while and that we talked about. It just feels really nice to be productive. And speaking of productive, there's a video I watched this morning that I thought I would share because I think it's just good. Hank Green, if you guys know Hank Green from the Green Brothers, and he started VidCon and a bunch of other stuff. He does all sorts of stuff, but he put out a video called His Secret to Productivity, and you should watch it. It's just a few minutes long.
Oh, I saw that. That's a great video.
It's fantastic, and it's really simple. I'll go ahead and spoil it in case you don't want to watch it, but basically he just says do 80% of the work and then stop.
Yeah.
Because and
you just talked about a minute ago with the clock. Like, people don't know what's everyone's different version of finished, version of perfection. Everybody's version of what's perfect is different. So if you're going to spend your life driving yourself crazy trying to get perfect, you're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah. And he makes some really good points around that, like, what all's involved in getting the perfect thing or getting to 100%, and how it's kind of a moving target, and depending on who's looking at it, there's a different expectation. And it was a lot of stuff that I've kind of thought about for a long time, but I've never really been able to say very well, put the thoughts together. And he did a really good job of just kind of, saying it's only worth doing so much of the work to get perfect or to get as good as you want it. And then after that, it's like diminishing returns. So anyway, it's 4 or 5 minutes, totally worth watching. So everybody should check that out. I think that's about what I've been up to. The shop's coming along, still making little improvements here and there, adding some 220 lines for some new tools that are coming.
Can I ask about those new tools, or are we going to keep that a secret? Because I got some new tools coming too.
Nah, I'm going to keep mine a secret a little bit.
Okay.
But, yeah, tell me about your new tools. What do you have coming?
Well, I ordered a new planer. So now that I have 3 220 outlets, I can get some bigger tools. And my thought with some of these tools is that I am trying to make things as fast as I can so I can get to that 80% and then move on to the next project. And a bigger planer is one of those things that will help speed up things. And I'm also getting a large drum sander. Which
are you getting a larger surface planer?
Yes,
planer or edge?
Surface planer. I did some research, and it came down to I wanted something bigger but didn't take up a whole lot of space, and Rikon makes this 15-inch planer. It's got a fairly small footprint, and so I went with that one. I'm also getting a bigger drum sander. I use my little drum sander all the time, but I don't always show it in the videos because it's not a necessary part. It's like, I'm sanding here, so I'm going to use this machine to speed up my sanding process. But it only has a 11-inch wide sanding surface, and so I'm getting a big 18-inch one that I probably still won't show much in the videos because it's just sanding, and you know how sanding works. But having those two tools will speed things up remove some steps, and then not just yet, but maybe in a few weeks I will get a 17-inch bandsaw, so I can have 2 bandsaws for resawing and curve cuts, and that'll save me time with changing blades. And so,
do you have a specific bandsaw you're looking at?
Yeah, it's a Grizzly. I'm looking at a Grizzly.
Nice.
Yeah, the Grizzlies, people have good things. I currently have a Grizzly, the 14-inch. Nothing wrong with it. Works fantastic. Works great. And everybody else seems to have the same consensus about Grizzly, and they're better priced than a lot of other tools, and so I'm going with that. Yeah.
Every Grizzly tool I have, I really like. I've not had any trouble with any of their stuff, and even recently when I have been looking for different tools, in my mind I think, well, if I go with Grizzly, it's going to be more expensive than what I might find otherwise, and then I go look at it and I'm like, it's actually not. It's actually cheaper. And it's like cast iron, and I've been happy with their stuff. I had a question. Oh, you want to sell me your drum sander?
Possibly. Yeah.
Okay. Because I've been wanting one for a long time.
So here's my thought is I'm going to have this bigger drum sander, and it's going to have usually a somewhat aggressive sandpaper on there, maybe like a 120 or something, just so I can smooth things out, get things to a certain thickness. And I thought about maybe keeping the little one with a finer grit for maybe some finish sanding on there.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'm going to have a space to put it. If I don't have a space to put it, it's all yours.
That's an interesting question. This is we're not even to our topic, and this isn't like a pushback question for you. But I know in the past you've gotten rid of a bunch of tools to save space, and because there were things that you didn't really need. Mm-hmm. And so now it sounds like you're bringing on double tools to make things faster. Yeah. Like, what made that shift? Is it just space? Is that what
I have more space, and I also have the electricity now to do some of these things. I'm still not going to get a joiner, at least not anytime soon. And I'm going to use planer and a planer sled and the table saw to do my jointing, because I think I can still get by without one. I need to get some of these tools into the shop and figure out where they're going to live to see how much room is actually going to be left. Because now that I have a bigger shop, I feel like I'm in a goldfish that's just moving to a bigger tank, and I'm just going to get bigger and fill that tank. And it still needs to be comfortable. You need to have room to be productive, so I'm not, trying to Tetris myself into situations.
Yeah, that was one thing I decided before we moved, that I was going to try really hard not to just fill up the space. Like, the reason I wanted a bigger shop is so that I can have empty space. So even though it's tempting to be like, I could have every tool in the world now. I can have 25 bandsaws like Jimmy. I'm not going to do my best not to do that. And I was wow, I stumbled over my tongue. Last night, I was actually standing in the shop. I have a big kind of open area in the center, and I was looking at that space thinking, this open, uninterrupted area that I'm standing in right now is bigger than my old shop was. I'm like, whoa!
I have a lot of that from time to time. Like, this whole area right here that I'm not using for anything, it was my old shop. I get exactly the same thing.
It's bizarre. I mean, and I say that not to brag, but to just like, it's really cool to be reminded, like what I have now, and like where it came from, and I'm blessed about it. But I had another thing. Oh yeah, well, so this is another switching gears. But I haven't mentioned this. I've told you two about it, but I have a full-time employee now.
Yes.
Oh wow, how's it working out?
It's working out awesome. So anybody that is around the community, the making community, YouTube, whatever, you may know Josh Price. Josh runs a channel called the PI Workshop, and he's kind of known around the circles for he and his family live in an RV, and they travel around, and they've made a bunch of interesting trips and taken their kids to different places and stuff. And they came through here a few weeks ago, and I've talked about him being around over the past few shows. But he's actually coming on full time to help out, to help in the shop, to like run a bunch of stuff for me. He's running some camera, which is really cool. We're learning that together. And he's just helping me build stuff and taking care of shipping orders and, setting up website posts. And it's just a bunch of stuff. But it's been awesome so far, and I'm really glad to have him around. So, but it's a big change for me to have like somebody here all the time in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that helping you get out of your funk?
I think so. Yeah. I think being forced to like talk out loud rather than just internalize stuff, I think that's had a lot to do with it. Having somebody else's ideas around and somebody to actually take care of a bunch of the stuff that was not a big enough priority for me to do, but it was adding like mental weight. Like after moving, there's just piles of boxes everywhere. There's boxes that are not quite important enough to spend time going through, but they're still in the way, or they're still, whatever. And, he's here to help me do stuff. So he's like, just tell me what you need done. And I'm like, those boxes need to be gone through and then organized and put in the shop where they would be useful. And then I come back in 30 minutes and they're cleaned up. And I'm like, whoa, that's really awesome. So stuff like that has been really helpful. I know a lot of stuff is getting done, even though I'm not necessarily the one who's doing it all. And that's really awesome. So we're doing like a trial run contract basis to make sure that it works for his family, make sure that it works for me. But it's been really cool, and I don't see why it wouldn't work, going forward. So, but it's a big change for I like to make stuff to not just be me and my editor friend who does work, here and there. Like he edits one day a week. He does design stuff as I need him to, but to have somebody in here 9 to 5, that's willing to help out with whatever is really cool. So
congrats.
Pretty awesome. Thanks. One more thing I wanted to throw out before we actually talk about something is Workbench Con. And this is kind of a plug, but
Yes.
Jimmy, you're going to Workbench Con. David, are you going?
No.
When is it?
I'm
Workbench
going.
Con. It's in
Atlanta.
I don't know. It's
February?
in Atlanta.
In February.
February. Yeah. That's right. And I don't know the dates off the top of my head. I can just look it up, I guess. But basically, it's a new conference for content creators, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And
like DIY influencers kind of thing.
Yeah. It's February 22nd through the 24th in Atlanta. Yeah. And it's a new conference, but the people that are putting it together have done Haven Conference, whatever, in the past, and that's been really successful. And so this one is geared more towards video and more towards makers, whereas the other one's a little more... I've never been to the other one, but I think it's more focused on like bloggers specifically and just a different type of content. So Workbench Con, the reason I'm bringing this up is because they're about to raise the prices. And so it's kind of an expensive thing to go to. But if making videos and making content is something that you're actually interested in doing as a career or as a pretty serious hobby, I think it would be beneficial to come to this. So the prices are going to go up on the 10th of November to $319 for the ticket. So I'm not sure what the price is now, but I know it's a lot less than that. And I think it's going to be cool because Jimmy and I are going to be there. Ben from Homemade Modern, Evan and Caitlin, Brad from Fix This Build That, Johnny Brook, April Wilkerson, Chris from Four Eyes, Mike from Modern Builds, John Malecki, a bunch of other people as well. But those people are all speakers, and we're talking on different topics. And so there's going to be like talks that you go and sit in. And
we agreed to do this like 16 years ago. So now that it's finally coming to pass, it's like I got to keep remembering what it is.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. And I think they're building out the kind of content schedule and stuff.
Yeah.
My talk is going to be about, they originally wanted it to be about podcasts. And I kind of expanded it out. So it's like ancillary content. So if your goal is making videos, I'm going to talk about how doing other stuff can help make your videos better. So podcast being part of that, but, speaking events and live streams and books and these different things.
My talk's going to be a lot about getting back up, restarting every time you have a failure or rejection. Because I've gone through a lot of that. So I'm going to talk about just keeping your eyes on the prize and not getting wrapped up in failure.
Both nice. Good talks, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really cool event. And there's going to be a bunch of like hangout time that they have scheduled where everybody can just get together and, get to know each other and stuff, along with the actual talks. So you should definitely go check it out. We all have a code that's not a discount code, as I understand it, but it like guarantees you a spot in the talk. So if you use the code Bob when you check out, it will guarantee you a place in one of my talks for one of the 2 days. I assume, Jimmy, yours is probably Jimmy.
Oh, maybe I don't know. I gotta check. I don't know. I don't even know.
Yeah. So anyway, go check it out, workbenchcon.com, and I'll link to it so that we, can get people there. I think it's going to be cool. So, now that we're 31 minutes in.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. We'd like to thank our Patreon supporters. I just thought of something before we hop into that. We all have assistants that help us out. Jimmy seems to be rotating, but maybe someday we have 6 of us on the podcast. We sit down with our.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, and we can talk about.
I'm gonna have to keep a shock collar on Brett, so when he starts talking, I'm just gonna push the button.
There you go. Yeah.
Brett, you know what I'm talking about. Don't tell anything. Don't say anything.
Yeah.
All right. So, how do we get sponsors?
Oh yeah, that's the conversation.
That's the conversation. How do we get sponsors?
Well, don't you just ask? Don't you just ask?
You just tell people you want them to pay for your buildings, and then they do it, right? Isn't that how it works, Jimmy?
Yeah, this conversation started because just before we started the podcast today, we began. A lot of people are saying to me this week, "Why don't you get so-and-so to pay for your building? Why don't you get GM to pay for your building? Why don't you get DeWalt to pay for your building?" And people with smaller channels and a little less experience in obtaining advertisers, maybe people that don't do this at all, think it's fairly simple, and it's not. We've been all working at this for so long. I've been doing this since 2011, and I didn't even consider advertisers until like 2014, 2015. I mean, I dabbled a little bit here and there when people came to me, but when it comes to advertisers, you got to just sit back and wait. You could kind of push the river a little bit, but you don't expect results. So that's what this conversation's about. We're going to each talk a little bit about our experiences with trying to get advertisers, and it's basically a fishing game. You're sitting on the edge of a boat in a lake, and you're just waiting and the bait is your content. You got to make cool content. You might tickle the feet of an advertiser by using some of their equipment, or you might get lucky enough for them to just knock on your door and say, "Hey, we see that you're using our model so-and-so 52. Would you like the model so-and-so 55? We'll send it to you if you want to talk about it." So if you've been a fan of this podcast from the beginning, you know that we've all kind of grown up in these last 3 years doing this, and how difficult a game it is, and how it's like a house of cards. We're all hoping to get money, but you can't just go knock on doors. It's not that easy. And so the reason I bring it up is a lot of people say, "Why don't you just get so-and-so to pay for your building, or get so-and-so to sponsor it?" Even when we did the Axe class, Taylor suggested that we go get Filson to sponsor the Axe class. And they immediately wrote back saying, "What do you want, money?" And I was like, well, that would be nice, but I was like, maybe you want to guys send over hats and shirts. And just because I was kind of put on the spot, they're like, "Well, we don't have any money for that kind of thing." And I expected the answer, but I figured I'd just ask at the very least. But, it's an eye-opening experience when you say, "Hey, do you want to pay for the thing I want to do?" And they go, "Why?" Yeah. And, you have to say, "Well, because there's going to be a lot of Instagram pictures happening, and people like me. They like the things I do. I swear." It's an odd thing. And
that's an awkward position to try to give yourself value. Yeah.
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 Well, it's interesting you said that, knock on doors, because I think that's one maybe misconception that people have, is that like the three of us or anybody like us has some secret door that we can knock on, and on the other side of that door is the person who makes decisions for company X.
Yeah.
And they're waiting there with like a pile of money, just waiting on the person to ask. But in reality,
that's like looking for a needle in a haystack. That's another big thing. Finding that person.
Finding that person, and the probability of that person actually having money that they're allowed to give, even if they want to. It's not even necessarily about that. It's, there's big companies, there's budgets, there's overlap in departments and who can spend what money, and they have to approve it with everybody above them or everybody to the side of them or whatever. And if you can even get to that person, but there's layers of people within a company, and then usually, like say a lot of tool companies specifically, they have at least one marketing agency in front of them.
Yeah, a lot of the bigger companies have a company that's in between.
Yeah.
And then a lot of YouTubers, like for instance, like Kyle and I are sharing our experiences, like, oh, do you know Jane Doe? And I'm like, I have no idea who that is. He goes, oh, Jane Doe gives me stuff all the time. And I'm like, well, I work with company X, but I don't know Jane Doe or Jane 3 or 5 or 6. I work with this advertising agency. And he'll go, oh, I never even heard of them. So like everybody has a different experience with these bigger brands because the inroads are different for almost everybody. And I mean, sometimes there's only one point person at a smaller company. And like we've all talked to the owner of company X. Everybody knows who that is. Sometimes it's a giant corporation where there's a marketing company, marketing people at the company that's hired, and marketing people at the company itself. And it's hard to figure out who's the one you got to focus on, if you can even get in to talk to any of them.
And even in the marketing side of it, so get past the company, you have a marketing agency. That marketing agency isn't necessarily the one who's buying advertising. They may have another agency. They may be running the creative or like the campaign, and then they go to digital marketing agency A and say, you go find a set of influencers for us to use. And then those are the people that may reach out to YouTubers or Instagram people or whatever. So, at that point, you're 3 levels away from anybody who can actually approve things.
Yep.
And then like in my case, I have an agent that I work with that handles all of that stuff for me. And that puts me personally 4 levels away from that person.
Yep.
Granted, he's working on my behalf, so it's not like I'm...
Bob and I have the same agency with different agents in the same agency.
Yeah.
So I have the smallest channel, so maybe some people can relate to me a little bit more. And I don't have an agent. And when somebody asks, how do I get sponsors? I respond with just, you have to make noise, first of all. You have to get noticed. No, I've never gotten a single sponsored video by me sending a cold calling email. They've all come to me. And so just make some noise, make really good content, and you're going to get noticed. And then what happens, in my case, is let's say an agent emails me and they represent this company, and I overperform. I give them what they want plus more. That agent also represents other companies that they will come back and say, hey, oh, by the way, we have this other client that we would like you to work with. And it's one of those things where if it has to work for both parties. They're not just going to give you a bunch of money and then you just show off their logo. In my case, I'm trying to get repeat videos from that same company. And so I do try to creatively get those brands into the video without being too much of a disruption. But I also want to have people's eyes on what they're trying to sell or their campaign.
Yeah. It's funny. I just had a negotiation with somebody, and I haven't gotten a contract yet, so it's probably not going to happen ultimately. But the TV show, me going away for a month, kind of interrupted the whole conversation. But I was arguing with a company through my agent. They wanted me to do a 5-minute spot for a number of money. And I said, 5 minutes is a living hell. Even if it was a 5-minute video beginning to end about your product, I said, that's a living hell. Nobody will watch it. And they said, well, what do you... I go, I'll do 2 minutes at the most, 1.5 to 2 minutes. And I'll incorporate it in a vlog. And they're like, no way. I'm like, well, do you want impressions? Because people will watch it through my vlog, I think they will, even if it's quick and it's fast. And then they wanted less money for less time. They wanted to pay me less for less time. I was like, it doesn't work like that. I said, you're going to get more impressions if it's shorter, quicker, and I'm more kind to my audience and not jam an advertisement down their throat for 5 full minutes. So to me, that's worth more. And I was able to negotiate them to pay me the same for 2 minutes. They all associate time with money. Mm-hmm. I remember having this conversation with a guy a couple of years ago, and I was like, well, I'll do this. He's like, well, that's only worth this much to me. And I said, you know what? I don't even want to work with the guy. I was talking through my agent. My agent got mad because I just said, tell the guy I don't care how much he wants to spend. I don't want to work with him. But I think that's a different subject for a different day. But the idea is when we do have opportunities to do an advertisement, we got to kind of gauge and see how annoying it's going to be. So sometimes you want it, then all of a sudden you have it, and you're like, oh wait, I'm not going to do a 5-minute ad for this product. I don't want to do that. I'm going to alienate everybody. People get upset with me. So it's a balancing act. But going to your point, Dave, about doing cold calls, there have been several times in my life. Like I never had an agent until recently, but I've had several TV shows, and I remember writing a letter to William Morris. I actually had a television show. It was a show I did on DIY called Against the Grain, which was a horrible show, and I had that show, and we were shooting episode 1 or 2 in like those first couple of weeks. And I wrote William Morris. I said, hey, I'm a DIY television host, and I have the show. And they wrote me back, and they said, thank you, but we're not interested. But they took the time to write me back. I actually wrote a letter and mailed them a letter. I Googled to find out who the contact person was. And the way I got the agent I have now, he came to me. He was paying attention to me. He kind of knew me. We've talked over the years. And one day he noticed my YouTube channel was doing well, and he's like, hey, we do YouTube people now. I was like, sure, let's take a swing at this. That was 1.5 years ago. And around the same time, you got your same agent from the company. Bob, you got yours like same time I did somehow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And but these people will reach out to you. If you're going to the other thing too is if they reach out to you, I had this argument with my dad. My dad always goes to the Long Island Woodworking Show and meets the guy from Festool and brags and begs and gets his number and says, call the guy. He says, I go, Dad, he's just a regional salesman. He has nothing to do with YouTube. And if they come to me, then I have an upper hand. If I go to them, they're going to say, like, what do you want? A free tool? And you can do a video for a free tool. But if they come to me, that means somebody's already sought us out, has an idea, has a thought process, says, this guy's perfect for this opportunity to advertise this new thing. How much do we want to call him with before we even do anything? And so that's why when you guys try and cold call, it depends on what you're cold calling. If you're cold calling a product, you're probably just going to get here's a free one. But if they call you, they're calling you with a budget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the tricks that I do is first of all, how do they get the email? And that I'm assuming they get it from the About page on your YouTube channel. And make sure you have, for business inquiries, use this email. When I do get the email, I don't reply back right away because I want to reply back with, here's my thought on how to use that product in a video. I always reply back with an idea. And if
good idea.
If your idea is something that they can't refuse, then all of a sudden you have the upper hand because they contacted you first. You have this brilliant idea, and now they respect you because they want to see their product used in this way, and then you can begin the horrible process of price and time negotiations.
Yeah, the negotiation stuff is pretty awful if you've not done it. And there's a few parts to that. One is the price, but then also is, like Jimmy was saying about the time, what they expect to get for the money is usually a little bit out of whack for what is kind of becoming common for what we do. And I think that's a lot of holdover from TV. You were saying like time is money. Like they think if they pay for this much time, or they think they're paying for this much time. From a TV perspective, that makes sense. You pay for a 30-second commercial or a 15-second commercial and it costs whatever. But it's just not the same. I mean, like it doesn't cost us anything really more production-wise to make a 15 or a 30-second video. When TV, it does, because you're paying, 50 people, salary and studios and all this different stuff. So it just doesn't apply. But you have to negotiate through all those things. You have to negotiate what you're actually going to cover, how long it's going to potentially take, Because if you don't clear that stuff up ahead of time, then it will end up being bad in the end. I think you also should negotiate how many rounds of revision the client gets, the sponsor gets. And this is huge. And a lot of people I talk to who are getting started doing sponsorship, they don't think about that. But if you say in your negotiation that they can approve 3 times or like 3 rounds of approval, that means that you're going to have to make a spot, show it to them, they give you feedback, and you make it again 3 times.
Right.
And think about how much, that money you're getting for that spot, and then divide it by 3, because that's what's going to happen. Because you're going to have to remake it. So, that's a point of negotiation for us, and we almost always try to get 1 round of revision. So I know that they get to see what I did. And there's also conversation ahead of time that say, I'm going to make it this way. I'm going to say these things. I'm going to cover whatever. Okay, we're cleared that up on paper. Now I'm going to make it. You get to look at it 1 time and tell me what you want changed. And then I make it. And that's it. Because if you let that go on and on, whatever money you're making will be eaten up with the time that you're spending remaking and remaking. But all that happens in the negotiation. It has to. Otherwise, it will be taken advantage of from the creator side or the sponsor side down the road if it's not defined in the contract at the beginning.
And I think we should all make it clear. It's unless you have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, all you're going to get for a spot is free tools. Or start at about $1,500 for a spot. I mean, if you have a couple of 100,000 subscribers. I see guys that have 10,000 subscribers or 4,000 subscribers or 5,000 subscribers, and they think, how much should I be charging? If they knock on your door and offer you free tools, that's pretty much all you can charge. I mean, you guys dispute that?
Well,
I think everything is different. Everything is different, but I mean, you're not going to make tens of thousands of dollars per spot if you have 10 or 12,000 subscribers.
I remember the first time I met Steve Ramsey, and he told me something that kind of changed my thought process of don't work for free tools. You're trying to do this for a living, get money out of it. And your level of engagement with your audience, whether it's 1,000 people watching or 100,000 people watching, can determine how much you can charge. I mean, if you get 1,000 people to go and buy a product or sign up for a service or do the free trial, that's a lot of people, and the brand is definitely getting or potentially getting their money's worth. And so I don't work for free tools. I need free tools and money. And I started doing this full time when I was only at 25,000 subscribers. And I was getting money from sponsors at that time, and I had other means of income, so not all of it was all YouTube based.
Well, and another thing around that same topic is that it's really easy to use subscribers as this benchmark that we talk about, but that means nothing, especially to it is well. I don't say it means nothing.
It means a lot to them because that's the window dressing that they look at and go, oh.
Well, it depends on who you talk to, because it is a thing that catches their eye. So if you see that number, if you see a big number there, then they think, oh, this person must have some sort of a following, some sort of an audience that we can take advantage of. That's the way they look at it. But the thing that is going to matter when it comes to performing and giving them what they're expecting to get for their money, that's views. And so if you have 10,000 subscribers and you have 10,000 views on every video that you put up, that is gigantic.
That's like Casey gets tremendous engagement. Casey Neistat, like his video, he has millions of subscribers, but he gets millions of views per video.
Yeah, and that is something that just about any advertiser would jump at. And so that goes back to what David's saying. Like, engagement is the thing, not necessarily, I've got this number of subscribers. That's not the thing that's going to perform. It may be the hook. It may be the thing that gets them to pay attention to you, but it's not going to be the thing that's going to turn around and give them 1,000 sales or 1,000 whatevers. Mm-hmm. So when I look at my stuff, my videos, based on my subscriber count to my per video view, it fluctuates in between 10 and 20%. So if you think about, I have 1.4 million subscribers right now. And my videos, and it's, it's different for every video, but in an average, they get from 150,000 to 300,000 views. So if you think, that number is significantly lower than the total subscriber count. So I can't go to a sponsor and say, yeah, man, I get like 1.4 million views on a video. No,
right.
I don't. I get 10% of that.
Right.
And so you have
they
to
usually want to know
about,
too what you get in the first 24 hours. They want to know, like, what is your average in the first 24 hours views?
24 hours.
That is the most
days.
engagement.
Yeah. Yeah. There's different ranges as to what they care about, because there's a pretty significant fall off after that. But
so I am on a website called Social Blue Book, and if you're not familiar with it, it's a great website to kind of see what you're worth, and it gives you a starting point. And so I'm logged into Social Blue Book, and I connect my YouTube channel to it, and it sees that I have 327,000 subscribers. My average view per video is 60,338, and I'm assuming that's an average view after 30 days of launch. And what it does is I can choose what type of sponsored content I'm going to do. If I'm doing a dedicated upload, it's saying I should charge $6,000. If I do a shout out, which is usually like a 30-second to 60-second ad, it's saying I should charge $2,100. And it gives me a range, a low of 983 to a high of 328. And it's a great place to get a starting point. And I say starting point because don't use those as absolute terms, because a lot of times when I am in the negotiation process and I have my price and I say this is what I want for a 45-second mention, they're like, well, that's a little bit out of our budget. I can then say, okay, I have 51,000 Instagram followers. What if I throw in an Instagram post too? And so then I have these other tools that I can kind of throw in to try to keep my number where I want it to be. Or I can, or if they don't have the budget, I can say, you know what? Okay, we'll just do a quick 15-second. We'll show the product on screen. We'll have a link down below. We can do it at the lower price, and maybe so there's different negotiation terms that you can use in your videos.
Yeah, for sure. We do a lot of that, and especially if you're. I don't as often get companies who want to do like a range of videos. They usually just want to do a single video and then like some social stuff around it, and that's you can negotiate all of those extra little things. Sometimes it turns out that if they're wanting to do like 6 videos throughout a year, then the price of those individuals' videos can drop some, because in my mind, at least, I have a guaranteed income of, maybe it's 75% of what I would have gotten anyway, but it's guaranteed over the course of a year, so I can budget the rest of my year
knowing you have something.
A little bit based on that, and so there are a lot of things that you like that depending on the scope and depending on like how committed the brand wants to be to you long term, you can also kind of negotiate those things down a little bit.
I like doing the series like that. For me, it's a comfortable thing. Right now, I have 2 more videos in my Rocco series to do that I'm committed to, and it's been a great series for me. I really liked working for them.
What about negative? I know we have negative experiences, and I don't want to talk specifically about any brands. I think that's counterproductive. But has there been any negative situation with you guys where, like, after the fact, you go, "I'm never going to make that particular decision again," or "I'm never going to like let something go in that direction"? Is there a warning that we can share?
Yeah, well, we've talked about it, but specifically doing a dedicated video for somebody and being overly shout-outy. It's, I try and do it subtly. Well, let me back up a little bit. There was a time when I had a small channel and I didn't have as much creative control. When someone came to me and they said, "Hey, do you want?" I remember my first video advertisement thing was Audible, and they gave me $3,500 for a thing. It's the first thing I could vaguely remember, and I was like, "Oh wow, that's exciting." But they gave me this whole script to read, and Welder and Welder kept laughing. I was trying to nail this script, and I just kept saying it wrong. And I got to the point where I was like, I don't want to say this at all. I want to give them the money back because I do not feel comfortable saying what they want me to say. And so from that moment on, anytime I had an advertising thing, I was like, well, is there a script? Do I have to read the script? I don't want to read the script because people want to watch me make stuff. I could show your product. I could do an on-screen overlay. I do not want to read a script. So from that point on, I lost a lot of advertising opportunities because people came to me and said, oh, can you do this, such and such? And I did the Audible thing and I got paid and they were happy with it, but I wasn't happy with having to read a script. And that's my big thing.
What I like to do is I like to say my audience reacts to this.
Right.
So
exactly.
I ask for bullet points, and 99% of the time, the companies that I work with will say, talk to your audience the way they want to be talked to.
Yeah, yeah. They say in your own voice is the way they often put it. Yeah. Which I think is big, for sure.
But it's funny, it's hard to put in your own voice when you're like citing.
It is.
Price
and
points
you get better at.
Well, and I think one way around that I've found is to point out the fact, like I try to make it really obvious. This is an ad. The reason that I have advertisers and sponsors is because that's what pays for my life, and so that I can make these videos of me making guitar stands and random junk. So, and the more you point that out, it's like I think people are a little more forgiving with the fact that they're getting an ad if they know that it's actually making a difference in you being able to do what you do. And I don't know. I'm not exactly sure how to go about explaining that I do that, but I think just pointing out the fact that it helps. And like Patreon is the same kind of way. I know we're not talking about Patreon and like user support, but when you actually can concretely say, this income from this source helps me do this one thing better, I think people are like, oh, okay, sure. Well, even if they don't like it, they get it more than just, here's an ad. I'm going to do these talking points and I'm going to sound like a car salesman for a thing that you don't care about, blah, 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 and then move on. They get kind of put off. But if you do that same spiel with, if you support Audible or whoever the company is, then they can continue to support me. So if you want to help me in a roundabout way, go do your free thingy with this advertiser and, it pays me. I think people, if they support what you do, they're a little more receptive to that.
I just watched a great video. A YouTuber, like a daily vlogger that I follow, Jimmy Diresta, he posted his entire VidSummit talk, which is like 50 minutes long. And his entire talk, this is going to be my pick of the week, by the way. His entire talk is how to make the brand the hero in your video. If you do it in the right way, people won't complain. They won't have a reason to complain if you do it right, and it's really good. This wasn't going to be my pick, but since this came up, I'm calling an audible and using this.
Calling an audible.
Yeah.
How much did you get for that?
Not sponsored by Audible. Actually, maybe David's sponsored by Audible. We're not, but
Link in the description.
We have any other sponsorship tips, tricks, don'ts, do's? I guess I never gave a bad example. So I have one. Here's a thing that I try to do every time. When a company comes and says, we have this product, we want you to make a video around this product, my first gut reaction is no way. Because for me, that's really hard to do in a way that makes sense, that's organic. Like there have been a few, like I worked with Intel one time and they came and said, we have an Arduino that has these certain features and we want you to make a project with these certain features. That's like in my wheelhouse. That totally makes sense. I would have done that whether they had sponsored it or not, if I'd gotten that board. That made a lot of sense. But in the past, one time a insulation company came to me and they said, we have insulation. We want you to make a project around insulation. And at the time I was like, yeah, sure. It's money. Yeah, let's go for it. Thinking that won't be that hard. But then when it came down to coming up with the idea, I'm like, how do I make a project with insulation? And it was like in the middle of summer, it's not like I could make a wall warmer. And so I had to force myself to come up with a project to use this material that I didn't really want to use. And I didn't, and I came up with the thing and I made the video and I felt gross about it. And I guess it was useful, but it just wasn't something I would have done otherwise. And so ever since that one, my response has always been, that's not how I want to do this. If you want to sponsor a video, that means I'm going to take your ad and I'm going to make your ad and you get to approve just your ad. And then I'm going to put that ad over the top of something else that I'm already working on.
Yeah. I like when you started doing that. That's a great idea.
That's just one of my conditions because I don't feel like a sponsor should have any creative control over anything about the video itself unless they are paying me an exorbitant amount of money.
It's a great,
people don't do that.
Great point.
I mean, and that's just like a personal. I decided what I do for the project is worth so much to me that I don't want to give that away for anything less than an exorbitant amount of money, and people don't want to pay that amount of money. So that's fine.
This is a great podcast. I just got some great advice.
Well, you want to feel good about what you put out, and that's really, really good advice. You don't want it to feel dirty afterwards.
I just want to clarify something.
Yeah.
I talked about me not wanting to read a script. When I got to do a 5-minute video and I got to talk about a script, that's the pain. That's where the pain and suffering comes in. But if I'm doing like a 2-minute shout out on a vlog, that's much easier for me. It's become much more natural for me to do a minute and a half segment on something. But Bob, that's great advice. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. And I think it's really easy, especially if you're getting started. Well, 2 things that I think are really easy when you're getting started with sponsors to fall in the trap. We already talked about just taking free tools. Everybody needs tools. I totally get it. But just think long term about how that's going to affect the relationship you have with that sponsor and the way that sponsor is going to view other creators. I think all of us try our best to lift up the entire community and like a rising tide lifts all boats, right? And if you go into a major tool corporation and you say, I'll do tons of videos and all you have to do is give me free tools, then that's the way they're going to look at everybody else who does what we do.
And that person's going to quickly realize they made a mistake.
Yeah. And in a year, when your channel is bigger or your platform is bigger or whatever, and you go back to that same company and be like, man, I love working with you. It's so awesome. How about we do some paid stuff? They're like, well, we can give you some more tools. I think it works against you in the long run. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do that at all, but like just think about how that's going to affect your relationship with that sponsor and how they're going to look at everybody else in our thing, whether that's a concern of yours or not. I don't know. It's different for everybody. Free tools. What was the other thing? I interrupted myself with that. I had another thought and I forgot what it was. Yeah. Anyway,
I guess the takeaway here is we're all basically fishing, and we got to be patient.
Yeah.
And then the bigger your channel grows, the more experience you get. And
the more
you could always talk to any. And you could always talk to any one of us. And then another really important thing, and you guys tell me if your experience has been different. Agent, anybody. I mean, Bob, your agent seems to be like a magician, but if you have an agent or an MCN or whatever those things are called, they very rarely do the hard work for you. You got to do it yourself. They're not going to go like, if you sign on with somebody and they say, oh, we're going to bring you advertising, they will bring you absolutely unequivocally zero. Because you've signed up with them and now they just have to sit back and wait for the big fish to come to your boat, because your boat is the one that's on camera. No one knows about their boat because they're sitting back behind the office waiting to take money from your fishing bucket. They want to take some of your crabs.
I think what a weird analogy. I think in general, maybe that's a decent way to wrap it up. Maybe I have a unicorn of a agent, but he is really on my side and he is out. And I think agents in general, they should theoretically be this way because they make a percentage of what they get for you. And so if they don't bring things to you, they don't get paid. Granted, if they don't bring things to you, they're actually not doing any work either. So maybe they don't need to get paid. But in my case, he gets a percentage of whatever he brings. So that makes it worth his while to actually do work and stuff. Now, the MCNs, like you pointed out, are not the same thing. Theoretically, they should be doing the same type of going out.
They sell themselves as the same thing. They seem like, and that being said, they seem like they're dissolving lately. They don't seem to be as much of a force because everyone really knows the scam. Yeah, I think the MCN model is breaking down, but a lot of people still I see online are asking, like, I got contacted by this MCN and they're promising to bring this or to do this or whatever. And I only know a couple of people who have had any good success with an MCN in that particular, for them actually delivering that particular stuff. They do have a purpose sometimes in fighting copyright strikes, like I know a musician, and the big reason he's with an MCN is so that when he makes a cover song, they handle the legal end of getting it like qualified or whatever for YouTube. And so there's value in that. But I think oftentimes the MCNs don't actually bring in
any advertising dollars to you, except here's a thing that a lot of people don't know to ask for. There's a thing called a minimum guarantee, that when you go to an MCN, or more likely when an MCN comes to you and says, hey, here's the deal. We want to take 20% of your AdSense money, and we're going to bring you premium ads, or we're going to do this, whatever. Your response should be, what's my minimum guarantee going to be? Meaning, you guarantee to bring me X number of dollars in advertising and sponsorship every year. And if you don't, you have to pay me that amount of money.
Yep.
And so if you can build any of that into your contract and make sure that whatever they promise to bring you is worth what they're going to be getting back in your AdSense dollars, that might make it worthwhile. But I think most people don't even know that that's an option. You can always negotiate. You can always say what you want when these MCNs come to you. We're really off topic. We're talking about sponsorship.
But then also ask them, say, oh, if you say you could do this, who have you done it for? And show me some specific examples. And who might be the first advertisement person you bring to me? Because they usually align.
And one of the weird things about MCN, since we're talking about it, is that they generally represent as many people as they possibly can. Mm-hmm. So
they want that money. They want those crabs, all those crabs.
All the crabs. But they want numbers. They want to say, we represent 1,000 creators or whatever. And when you sign up with them, imagine that you are going in. Okay, here's an example. Imagine, and this is not the case, I'm just using this as an example because he was on my mind. The King of Random, Grant Thompson, we know each other. And imagine that he was on an MCN, and then that same MCN came to me and said, hey, will you join our thing and we'll bring you advertising? Sure. Okay, so we both sign up. When they get an advertiser, are they going to go to the guy with 8.5 million subscribers or the guy with 1.4 million subscribers? They're going to go to him, and that's going to happen anytime that you are, you have a channel on the same MCN that has a similar category and a larger audience than you have. You will always be second string. You will always be the fallback, and you're not going to get those big dollars. So those promises are like, I don't know. They're theoretical, but depending on who else is under the umbrella of the MCN is like how much you're actually going to be getting fulfillment on the promises that they make you. It's a big, weird, convoluted thing, and you should stay away from them. That's my advice.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got way off topic. We're like at an hour, 7 minutes.
We're just fishing.
Before we talk about what we're watching, let me thank our Patreon supporters because they make it so that we don't have to carry about sponsorship on this podcast, and that's awesome.
Yes.
So big thanks to everybody over there. And there's a huge list and a growing list all the time. We're really grateful for all of the levels that people support us at, but especially the top supporters. Make, Build, Modify, Freeman Furnishings, Torble Terry, Works by Solo, Malton Make, Corey Ward, Evan and Caitlin, and Wise Old Dow. You guys are awesome. All of you are awesome. We're very grateful. What was you already said your pick, David. Go over it again.
Yeah,
what was it?
So my pick is Sean Duras. It's his speech at Vid Summit, which Vid Summit is a video conference for creators. And after watching 3 different speeches from this event, I am definitely going to it next year. I think it's one of the more expensive ones, but Sean Duras's speech is about using brands in your video, making them the hero of the video, so people have no reason to complain about the sponsored video. It's really good.
Cool. Check it out.
Do you guys watch Kai W?
No.
I think he's Chinese. I think he's in Hong Kong, but he has a British accent. He has an amazing voice, this guy. He does camera reviews, and from time to time I Google camera. I just got the Sony RX0, a little tiny action. So they don't really call it an action camera, but it's a small Sony. So I've been doing some research, and he hasn't reviewed it yet, at least that I can see. But when he popped up, he was like, I was like, oh, this guy, I like this guy. And I watched some of his. So he does camera reviews. If anybody's interested or looking for any in-depth conversations about cameras, Kai W. He's from Hong Kong, but he has a British accent, and he's got an amazing voice. So if you just put it on and like kind of podcast his videos, he has an interesting audible. So check him out. Kai W. does really in-depth reviews on cameras, and he's got about 500,000 subscribers. He's becoming an authority. He's been so for a while.
Awesome. Mine is a brand new podcast. Well, it's new to me. Sorry. My friend Forby told me about it yesterday. I listened to the first episode. The first one I've listened to was this morning, and I really like it. I can't wait to listen to more. It's called Song Exploder. Have we talked about this before?
I don't believe
David,
so.
you'll like this.
Okay.
So it's a guy, and I can't remember his name, but he picks a song, and then he has the artist who created that song on. And the episode I listened to this morning was for the guys that are scoring Stranger Things, which Stranger Things season 2 is also out. You should go watch it because it's awesome. But it's the two guys that scored that, and so the episode is about the theme song and how they wrote it. And so it's not just a person talking about music, it's a person talking about music that was created with the creators and how they did it. And that's what's really cool about it. So these guys talk about where the samples came from, what instruments they used, why they did things that they did. It's a lot of, like this one in particular is a lot of synthesizer. And so they're explaining, this is why we use this type of sound from this keyboard, because it almost sounds percussive, and this one opens a filter so it gives you this emotion. You know, it's not just a technical thing, it's also why we wrote this song the way we wrote it. And looking through the past episodes, it sounds really like there's a bunch that I'm interested in going back and listening to, which is cool. So yeah, check out Song Exploder.
Just subscribed. Also,
That's pretty awesome.
Bob, your pick from a couple weeks ago of the puppet. I forget the channel's name.
Oh, the Oddlings.
Yeah, the Oddlings. That's fun. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're funny people, and they do a really good job. Cool. You guys got anything else?
I'm going to talk about it in my vlog, but I bought 2 antique printing presses this week. I bought 2, one from 1930, one from like 1900. Incredible, interesting machines that I think I'm done buying printing presses now for the moment. I think I've got my full, but
Sure.
too bad Chandler and Price is not in business anymore because they could sponsor a couple of YouTube videos. But I'm excited about my new printing presses, so
Sweet.
excited. That's all I just wanted to say. I'm excited about something new.
Well, you can tell us more about it in the after show that we're going to do right after this.
Oh, cool. I'll tell you how I crushed my finger.
Oh, yeah, that'd be a fun story to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, before we go, I want to say one more thing. Happy 3-year anniversary to you guys, because this is the show that will be...
yeah, tomorrow's the anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 years.
Wow.
What are you guys going to be for Halloween?
Dad. That's all I got.
That's all I got as well. Nothing.
You're going to be a dad?
I'm going to be a dad. I'm going to be a dad, yeah. To
I'm gonna
my
be
wiener
Kyle's
dog.
helper.
Congratulations.
I'm going to put on a tool belt and be Kyle's helper.
I do want to say that sadly we had to put our cat to sleep, the one that would come in here and yell at me during the podcast. Yeah, Sydney was 20 plus years old. He's a good dude. He liked to complain a lot, and I loved it. I loved it when he would interrupt me to yell at me. So miss you, buddy.
Sorry about that, man.
Thanks.
That's rough. Well, if you're still around from Patreon, we'll see you in the after show. Otherwise, we will see you next week.
Love you guys. Thank you.